as we get started, before we jump into the presentations, we'd like to start Supar with a short story from someone in recovery. As a leader in the recovery community in Steamboat Springs and someone whose passion for helping others live better lives in sobriety is just absolutely contagious, I'm thrilled to introduce you to Chris Ray. He is a peer support specialist with the partnership serving Northwest Colorado. Chris, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good morning, everybody. Really honored to be here and to be asked to relate my story and what, where I've been, where I'm at, where I'm going with all of you. And as you see, this is a very important, group and way to connect. So I'll just get right into it. I am in recovery. I work for the Health Partnership as a peer recovery specialist. I've been in recovery for almost a couple years. I have been in Steamboat for about 7. The old story of, was a bartender, moved here and wanted to live the dream, as they say, and fell right into it, fell into the, to the whole Peter Pan lifestyle of drinking too much, doing too many drugs, and lost my way. That is not so much important as how I got better. When about 2018, end of 2018, about this time, I decided to reach out to the Foundry. I had not really a whole lot of hope. Getting older, had, kind of spinning my wheels, and I reached out to the Foundry, and I was working for a local restaurant group, and luckily I had really good insurance, and my managers actually knew that I had an issue. We had spoken about it. I had a really wonderful mentor and a coworker of mine that had been with me for about 5 years, who was about 7 years clean, and never really, forced it on me, anything like that, but I knew that I had an advocate and a friend in him. And I reached out to him. The Foundry was kind enough to get me in at the very end of 2018. And I spent 35 days there. It was just a wonderful experience. Really dove into, I believe, what Dr. Barnes is going to go into later, which is the trauma, focused on trauma, how that affects your life, how that has affected my addictions, and made some great connections there. One especially with a lady in town, Sarah Coleman, who taught me about physical fitness and health. And when I went into the Foundry, I think I weighed about 145 pounds. I now weigh about 190. 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot tall. Let's just say 6 foot. But I was in bad shape. I actually had 7 teeth pulled about 3 weeks before I went into the Foundry. I'd had some infections from drug use, old stuff, and I really went in there in a lot of pain. I eventually had to get sinus surgery. While I was in the Foundry, I had some issues, some physical issues. They were kind enough to help me with that, and really just taught me so much about community and how to deal with what we go through, or what we've gone through, and how to move forward with that and not blame myself, and to not look back. So then after that, I went back to Indiana for about 4 months and did some outpatient work. So lots of yoga, found some, menial things to do while I concentrated on the 90 and 90 and my outpatient. I followed all the protocol, and I had purchased a condo before I'd left. I was lucky enough to have some wherewithal and had a tenant in here. And the scary part about recovery was coming back to my old life, coming back to Steamboat, because I'd put myself in this bubble with family, whatnot, and felt like I had gotten better. I got a pretty good job when I got back, working for an event rental company, and in a position of authority, which I was used to, managing and things like that. And I created the Facebook page Soboat before I came back, and I had a lot of people interested. We had about 50 or somewhat members, and slowly working it up like a lot of things. But I was still hanging around with, going to bars, not drinking, not using or anything, but going to bars and trying to relive my old life, not trying to change. One of the old adages of recovery is, nothing changes if nothing changes. And I, changed some things, but not everything. And in October of 2019, I was at a party down in Boulder area where some people had been using drugs. I thought I could be around that. And I unfortunately was dosed with a lethal dose of GHB, which is a colorless liquid, flavorless liquid. And I filled up a water bottle with it in there, and I overdosed. And long story short, I was in the hospital for 7 days. If I was not an organ donor, I would not be sitting here talking to you today, because they had given up on me. They had called the folks to come get me, and literally a casket was purchased for me. My family flew out, and by some reasoning, here I am, and spent 7 days in the hospital there. It was an intense recovery. I'm unbelievably, maybe a little slower than I used to be, but that's probably a good thing. And out of that came this new appreciation, this new sense of, I need community. I need to be able to connect with others. And I started working with Sarah on the Clean and Sober Steamboat stuff. We ramped up our Soboat efforts, and we started working with the Health Partnership on a strictly volunteer basis to start putting on those events. Sarah had started it. I had come on. She had asked me to be more involved, which I was happy to. And at that time, I was still working 50, 60 hours a week in my regular job with the event rental company. And it was busy. So I did what I could. In the meantime, I did go, I'd been tip-toeing around 12-step programs, and, I did my 90 and 90, but I never had gotten a sponsor. And so after that, I got a sponsor. I dove into NA. I started really making those connections. Also do some AA stuff. And what we did is we started putting these events on. They started to become successful. Some days we'd show up and there'd be one person there. Some days we'd show up and there'd be 20 people there. And so it was really just a matter of showing up, being there, being present for the community. And it is working. It started to work. And then the pandemic hit. And I got laid off of my job, which can be ended up being a blessing. And as I look at it, I was like, well, what can I do during this time? So I dove even further into it. I had more time. I was able to, support myself and with help. And I started, working further and further, getting more involved, reaching out to more people, and creating more of a community. And I ended up working with a farm out in Phippsburg, and we did an event up there. And I, employed some of the Health Partnership's resources. As that came along, the Health Partnership offered me a position. And, from that one event in Phippsburg, we've gained, I think we're now up to like 320 members, 330 members, local here in Steamboat. And we do everything from ski meetups, back in the winter before, mountain biking. We've done camping, camping trips. And what we do with SoBoat and with Clean and Sober is we're not limiting this community to a community of people that are only in recovery. What we're trying to do is say, hey, you know, people in recovery need everyone. We need people that aren't in recovery, people that have family and friends in recovery, people that just want to help build a community that isn't focused on drinking, on this party lifestyle. There's just so much more that, you know, Northwest Colorado has to offer, and just life in general has to offer, no matter where you are. And we partnered with the Phoenix, which is a great organization down in Denver. We are doing 5 workouts a week with them, 2 yogas, 3 CrossFit. We have a schedule coming out every month where we have 3 or 4, you know, socially distanced, responsible events, and it's just been a lifesaver for me. And I'm now working with Craig. I think I have something coming on next Saturday with Providence Recovery and Craig coming on next Saturday, and really want to reach out and almost franchise what we're doing with the Clean and Sober events and the SoBoat and Steamboat, because I really think that as we move forward, we want to identify community leaders. We want to empower those community leaders, whether they're in recovery or not, or in the, you know, in the community that helps people in recovery, and empower them to create something of their own and to live out loud, to really present their lives and their recovery in a positive and wonderful note. As we move forward with Clean and Sober, with SoBoat, with my position at the Health Partnership, you know, we're trying to reach, you know, step by step other communities that are in need and address those communities' needs that are specific to that community. You know, I don't think we're going to get as much traction on yoga in Rifle or Craig as we would here. So, you know, we want to identify, maybe it's archery, maybe it's, you know, hunting, things like that, that bring those specific communities together, and identify leaders in those communities, and grow a, you know, recovery network throughout the state that can play off of each other, that can assist one another, that can be there, and you know, especially helping people that are fresh out, you know, say people come out of the Foundry or any of the programs in Colorado, and they are like me, you know, they are looking for a positive influence. They can't go back to their old lives. So what do? They find us, they find people to talk to, they find activities to do, they find ways to help and to give back. And that is really the goal. That is what we are hoping to do, hoping to create, hoping to keep creating, because I think we've been really successful. So I think that's kind of where I'll leave it. And I really appreciate you all listening, and looking forward to hearing your stories. Thank you.